Okay, so it's about 12:05. I want to kind of respect everybody who's joined on time. Why don't we go ahead and get started? And of course, there'll be a recording available. So anyone who misses the first part of this presentation can check the recording and go back and validate and figure out, what you missed. But hopefully we'll just go through some introductory material initially, and then you won't miss too much if you're joining us, if folks are joining us in the next five minutes or so. All right, so this is part of the Web Age Technology webinar series, and this particular webinar is targeted towards those of you who are leading teams, and in particular leading teams that are doing Agile development, whether you're doing it with Scrum or scaled Agile or large-scale Scrum. And we wanted to put together some thoughts about Agile leadership in the crisis. My name is Sanjeev Augustine, and I have my co-presenter here and colleague and longtime friend, Roland Koyar. Quick introduction to myself. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, been in the industry for about 30 years, and I'm the founder of this company called Lightspeed. And in the last few years, I've been really focused on evangelizing Agile with a focus on Agile leadership. Roland, quick introduction to yourself, you want to give it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been practicing Agile now for a little over 15 years. And a lot of my work lately has really been focusing on portfolio management, lean portfolio management, and budgeting and finance, and also governance and controls and things like that. We tend to help a lot of large organizations with things of that nature.
Okay. So I want to move straight into some of the material for our presentation over here. And this is our agenda. We have 3 sections, and I wanted to introduce to you this concept of innovation in our pandemic crisis era. Give you some statistics about how important it is to have innovation, and also how most folks don't have a handle on how exactly to do it. And then, of course, give you some 3 practical keys to do this innovation in the crisis. And the keys we want to give you are specifically, you can see those circles over here, develop a customer-centric lean mindset, enable flow with lean portfolio management. We rely on Roland's vast expertise and wisdom over there. And then also to create a culture of Agile and DevOps excellence, right? And then, of course, we have some time for discussion and Q&A at the end. And I'll probably stop after each section just to see if there are any questions as we keep going, right? So without further ado, let's jump into our first section over here. And these statistics come to us by way of McKinsey. McKinsey Innovation has done a lot of work, and they've been polling executives in particular. And what they found is that nearly 75% of executives, that's 3 out of 4 executives, agree that the changes brought about by our current pandemic, our COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic, will bring a big opportunity for growth. Of course, we sort of have to go through this valley of death first and then come out on the other side. So even as we all continue to grapple with the healthcare crisis, we know that there will be business opportunities once we do emerge from it, and we know we will, right? There is also a feeling among those same executives that very few of them feel equipped to pursue the opportunity. They agree that innovation in the business will be critical. They agree that they need to put in place some foundational stones and foundational things that need to be put in place right now. But they don't know how to do it, and they feel a little overwhelmed right now with all of the challenges. And you see that a whole 2/3 of this believe that this will be the most challenging moment in their executive career. So anybody in a leadership position is probably under a lot of pressure. So be kind to your bosses. They're all going, or if you're a boss yourself, be kind to yourself, because we all understand that we're going through a very challenging moments in our careers right now. All right. As a consequence, the commitment to innovation has decreased. Right. So when we have crises to deal with, when we have fires to put out, what we're finding is that obviously people will not understand that, or not completely understand how to also invest in innovation, how to also simultaneously, while dealing with crisis, to invest in the longer term kind of things, right? So our thoughts today are to, first of all, establish the need for innovation, right? So understand that when our organizations invest while the crises are undergoing, in the future, we know that when we come out of the crises, the companies, our organizations that invest in our people, in our companies, will outperform the peers in the recovery. In fact, we know that a lot of small businesses in the US at least are already going out of business. And so for those, those companies that are able to weather the storm and invest in innovation while weathering the storm, when the upturn does come, those are the companies that will outperform the peers in the future, right? So our question is, what can we do, those of us who are in the Agile community, what can we do to prepare for the future, even as we deal with the crises of the present? Right? So these are the three keys again: customer-centric lean mindset, lean portfolio management, and that culture of Agile and DevOps excellence. So I'm going to cover the first and the last one, and as I mentioned, Roland will chip in and cover the second one, which is around lean portfolio management. So many of you might have heard of this whole concept of lean thinking. Right? So lean thinking, in a nutshell, is the stuff that came to us, all of the great practices that came to us from Toyota. We had the American statistician and quality management guru, Edward Deming. After World War II, Deming teamed up with Toyota, right? Not here in the US, where we are, at least Roland and I are, but in Japan. And so in Japan, Edward Deming teamed up with the folks, the leaders at Toyota, and they developed what was at that time called the Toyota production system. And today it's evolved into what we could now call a culture, and they call it the Toyota way. Now, some of us know that, or some of you might know that what you see on this slide are some of the key concepts of that lean thinking or the Toyota production system. The idea of just in time. We're not going to carry a lot of inventory because it creates waste. Jidoka, address problems where they happen and maintain high quality at all time. Standardized work. Haijunka, which is about leveling in production volume and making sure that we can handle surges in demand. And then the one that a lot of us are familiar with in the Agile community is Kaizen, which stands for good change or improvement. This is a retrospective, if you will. So one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that we take these concepts of lean and apply them to the way we're doing business. So I'm going to play a video now. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to develop a customer-centric lean mindset. So the Toyota production system talks about some key principles, but how do we take that and apply those principles to our customers, even as we handle the effects of the pandemic and the COVID-19 crisis? Right? So what can we do today? So here's a gentleman from a company called Danfoss, and as he talks, I'm going to be capturing some of his key points. And he's talking about developing a customer-centric lean mindset.
The Taktklubben is gathered at Kødbyen in Copenhagen, and today's topic is customer-centric lean. I'm joined now by Samuel Porter, who is the head of branding and design at Danfoss. You talked a lot about customer-centric lean. How has that helped Danfoss prioritize and make money?
I mean, for us, customer-centric lean, it really comes back to making sure that we have the voice of the customer in everything we do, knowing where in the value chain we are in relation to the value that we're trying to create for the customer at the end of the day. In the innovation, for example, that's really about bringing backpacks, insights into everything before we get started and too far down an innovation process, and really making sure that just everything that we improve is because it's going to improve something for the overall experience for the customer.
You also talked about connecting the brand to the growth strategy. How are some of the ways that you've done that?
I mean, for us, it's very clear that, in markets where growth isn't just happening every day organically, you really have to be very selective in where you're going to put your branding dollars and your bets on the table. And so for us in Danfoss, we're working very systematically to be better at identifying where are our growth opportunities. And the same goes for our branding, is to follow that same lead and make sure that we're investing in the best opportunities and supporting where Danfoss feels it has the best opportunity to get growth and profitable growth.
How can you ensure that the customer is at the center of your branding strategy?
Yeah, by using the customer, by talking to the customer, by relying on the insights that are being generated by the company, the thousands of sales guys we have out there every day, the CPS or customer perception studies that we run, loyalty scores, net promoter scores, and really making sure that we build backpacks and build business cases based on what the customer has said and asked for. At the same time, balancing that with what we believe ourselves, and what we think will be the best outcome for our company and also to create value for the customer.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Right, so I thought there was a nice, concise way to take all of those concepts of lean and apply them to this concept of developing a customer-centric lean mindset, because when we apply lean to agile product development or agile methods or even agile leadership, we always start with the customer. Right? We want to understand what our customers are feeling, what they're thinking, and we want to take the insights from that interaction and build them into business cases and be very selective with the bets that we make. So the next section is to take that learning or that approach of being very customer-centric with our lean, and having a customer-centric lean mindset, if you will, and then doing it at scale with lean portfolio management. So Roland, if you want to start, if you can just tell me which slides to move forward, but please take over.
Yep, will do. Thank you, Sanjeev. Yep, I think a lot of us in the Agile community are aware that we need to manage WIP in order to move quickly. We know that within Scrum and Kanban, in Scrum, we try to focus on a few requirements at once so that we can get them done very quickly. And with Kanban, we use WIP limits so that we can try to really put all of our team's focus on a few items, give them all the attention they need, and get them through quickly. I think what a lot of people miss out on, though, is these same ideas apply at the portfolio level. Most organizations have way too many projects going on at the same time. They're all competing for the same resources. They're all trying to get through the same bottlenecks in the organization. Maybe it's security scans or infrastructure or deployment or sign-offs or phase gates or whatever it happens to be. And basically, you just have this giant traffic jam in most organizations with a lot of projects trying to get through a very narrow pipeline. So we have to control WIP at the project level as well. So Sanjeev, if you will, please. So how do we do that? I mean, it really starts with organizational goals and strategy. The title of the presentation is really focused on innovation and how do I drive innovation, right? So typically, there are way more projects than we can get done within a certain amount of time or given our particular budget. So how do we choose those projects? And we need some way of selecting projects that really focus on helping our organization meet its strategic objectives, being innovative, using this time of crisis to find ways to change the business or change how we interact with our customers. It's an opportunity to really sort of change the game, if you will. But we have to choose our projects appropriately. And we can't say yes to all of them. We can't say yes to all of them right now. We need a sequence of projects that make sense, a sequence of projects that are going to get us through this challenge and get us towards innovating and coming up with our new business model. So we need clear objectives here. And we use here this notion of an Agile VMO, or a value management organization, similar to a PMO, whose job really is to prioritize for value delivery and really narrow down our focus on a handful of projects that are going to move the needle. Sandeep? Okay, even within a project, so now, we started off with the situation of having too many projects at the same time, and now we've used this notion of the VMO to focus our attention to a few projects, and that'll help with our project WIP. But even within our projects, we tend to have way too many features, way too many requirements in order to get these projects done and completed and delivered and out the door anytime soon. We need to further narrow our focus even more on the individual features that provide the most economic value. Some features are super high value and they are cheap to implement, and we should do those absolutely first. Some features are really high value, but they're really costly, and we should think twice about doing those. Some features are low value, right, and not very costly, and those might be okay. And they're the worst ones, of course, are really low value and very costly. Now, when we work with our customers, I'll always do some kind of a survey to find out, well, what percentage of your requirements and features do you think go unused? You put all this time and effort and money into creating these features and this functionality, and customers never end up clicking it. And the numbers are always shockingly high. I've seen on the low end, I'll see 30 or 40%. On the high end, I'll see 70 or 80%. Sometimes customers saying 80% of their features go unused. The goal shouldn't be how do we create software faster. The goal should be how do we create less software that really focuses on high customer value, that is low cost to produce. And when we narrow our focus to the really high value features, we're able to produce better quality and get it out there faster. So that's the real goal. It's not to get all the requirements in the project done. but to get those done that provide the most value for the least cost and the greatest speed. Sandeep? Now, now we've prioritized our projects, and within the projects, we prioritize the requirements. And so now we can set up these Agile teams and start giving them these really high value, low cost MVPs or features, however you want to call them, and have the teams focus on those, have really tight WIP limits, and get those things done with great speed and with great quality. And these are the economic winners, if you will, the features that provide the most value at the lowest cost, and we're able to give them our full attention. So this is really what we're striving for. So one question is, well, how do I discover the high value, low cost features? It's really hard to do. Well, the third bullet on this slide, I don't want to go into great detail, but there's a tool or a notion called WSJF, the weighted shortest job first. I would ask you to look more into that notion. It's a great way to make reasonably sound economic decisions in the absence of really hard data. It's really difficult to know how much is it going to cost us to create this feature, and how many customers are going to use it, or how much economic value are we going to drive from it. Those are really difficult things to figure out. But the WSJF model allows us to use basically a point-based system to just compare features against one another and find out which ones have the most value versus others, which ones have the most cost versus others. And it's a quick way to do a feature level ROI. And that is a really powerful way to have a pretty decent cut at which features are the economic winners and which ones we should focus on first. Sandeep?
Right, and this is your list to just capture all the steps, Roland, first step?
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely, we want to set some work in progress limits at the portfolio level. We don't want to work on too many projects at once. We need a Kanban system really focused around customer-centric prioritization and innovation and strategy, so that we choose those projects that really have the most impact on the goals we're trying to achieve. Third step, using WSJF or something like that within a project to find out which features have the greatest economic value and the lowest cost, and those are the ones that we should do first. And then we should take those features or those MVPs that really score high on the WSJF tool and give those to our dedicated Agile team so we can get great value out in a short amount of time and at low cost.
Okay. Fantastic. And if any of you are not familiar with the terms, the acronyms over there, the WSJF, WSJF is the weighted shortest job first, is based on the concept of cost of delay. And then the MVPs are minimum viable products, where we take our big project deliverables and chunk them into smaller chunks that we call minimum viable products, or sometimes called MMPs, minimum marketable products. So I'm going to stop there and actually do a call for questions, because we've covered two very important questions. Very important sections. One is to develop the customer-centric lean mindset, and then the other is to set up this lean portfolio management for flow. So before we jump into our final section over here with Agile and DevOps Excellence, let's see if we have any questions from the audience. Questions, if you want to just kind of write them down into your questions section. You can probably see them. I know I can see them here. Take a minute. All right, I'll give it a few more seconds. If there are no questions or no more questions, we'll jump into our third section. All righty. Okay, so we don't see any questions coming up. So we will have another opportunity at the end of the presentation for you guys to ask your questions. So let's jump into our third section over here, which is about creating a culture of Agile and DevOps excellence. So the Agile movement got started a number of years ago, right? So probably about 20 years ago to the date when the Agile Manifesto was signed. And at least in the initial days, there was a lot of focus on delivery, right? Delivery excellence, making sure we delivered high quality product. And at least in the last few years, it seems like we've gotten distracted by a lot of this process stuff, right? Should I stand up? Should I sit down? Should I stand up daily? Should I sit down daily? And for us, at least, it's always been that we should approach the work we're doing, delivering product with a high level of quality. And so here's this concept of Jidoka, and this comes to us from Toyota. And Toyota had this concept of automation that is creating a very high degree of automation with a human touch. So I'm going to play this video, and then we'll talk about how to apply that concept to our agile organizations.
The originators of lean production also invented the concept of Jidoka, or quality at the source. Instead of implementing quality control inspections at the end of the assembly line, as was traditionally done, the lean production concept emphasizes the importance of maintaining quality at every stage of the manufacturing process.
One of the things that we've done that has been helpful to us is to allow people in the manufacturing process to stop the process if in fact there's a quality delivery or issue that prevents them from making a good product. We found that they are reluctant to stop the line, but once they learn that having stopped the line doesn't get them in trouble, you can make a significant improvement in quality by fixing the problem that they identify.
Okay, so we want to create this culture where everyone on the team is empowered to, quote unquote, stop the line and build quality in, right? So we know from Agile and Scrum that our team size, ideal team size is between 5 to 9 people. People need to work collaboratively across roles and functions, and we'll overlap stuff. But what we want to stress over here is that we need to empower our team members to build quality in, right? And get this concept of continuous improvement or automation and really embedded deeply into their consciousness for both process and delivery excellence. So agile processes like Scrum can get us up and running, but we also have to supplement Scrum with techniques from agile engineering and also from DevOps, right? So one of the things that have been out there in the industry for a long time is a body of learning from the other agile methodology called extreme programming, or XP. And XP has, for the same amount of time as Scrum, has had a lot of very stringent and disciplined processes around automated builds, continuous integration, simple design, refactoring, which is just continuously improving the code without changing the functionality, multi-level testing, this thing called TDD, or nowadays we have BDD, test-driven development and behavior-driven development, pair programming, where people work together to deliver high-quality code, and then just sort of taking the larger, big, monolithic types of services and putting in, chunking them down into microservices, so that the software architecture itself can be loosely coupled and help drive the business agility that we're seeking. One great way to do this is, as leaders, start to understand that while we're sort of regrouping under the current crisis, that we can institute or set up what we call coding dojos. Coding dojos are the concept that you bring teams in. They work in very short sprints, usually about 2.5 days or so, and in over this cycle of about 6 weeks, they work on real problems and very much committed to learning. They upskill very significantly, not only in the engineering techniques, but also in the DevOps techniques, right? So this DevOps, the notion of development and operations coming together to get a continuous flow of value from development out into production all the time, right? There's the concept of CICD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, that we really have to build up and work towards, right? So when we take these tools that come to us from DevOps and combine them with the tools that come to us from Agile engineering and extreme programming, then we're truly investing in quality code and implementing that concept of Jidoka, or automation. DevOps automated tools we develop and test close to production. We're integrating and deploying frequently. We're probably doing it in some sort of a dark release fashion using feature toggles. And then we're just continuously validating operational quality and also measuring, right? So DevOps is really about measurement as well. And the thought over here is that we can't really respond quickly to the market if we're not able to deploy the products and services that we develop quickly. And we need to be able to deploy them as quickly as we develop them. And then also continuously measure them to make sure that we're measuring our business outcome. So, we started with the concept of the customer. We said, let's talk about the customer. Let's talk about doing our experimentation based on the customer needs. But then we started to say, let's manage the portfolio. Let's work on a few things at a time, prioritize those things. And then over here, we want to say that our Agile teams are equipped for both process, that's Scrum or Scaled Agile Framework or what have you, and delivery expertise with Agile engineering and DevOps, right? And to do that, we want to be able to invest deeply with Agile engineering, with coding dojos, and then also extend Agile engineering with DevOps automation. And then we can get towards that sort of goal of, or aspirational goal of automation or Jidoka. All right, so
hey, Sanjeev, can I add a little story there?
Sure, absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, one of our customers has a great metric that I really love, and they measure the percentage of their deployments that happen during the middle of the workday. And there's something, they have a really high percentage, or something like 80% of their deployments happen in the middle of the workday. And they use that metric because if they're able to deploy in the middle of the workday, that means they have found out how to deploy without impacting customers. That means they have test environments that match production. That means that they've got feature flags or other tools that they can turn functionality on and off. That means that they're able to do rollback quickly if they need to. That means that they have all of the approvals in place that allow them to really launch into production on a moment's notice. And it just means that delivery is a normal part of operations. It's same as any other part of the business. It's not a special thing you do on the weekends or nights, because it's not rare at all. It happens all the time. And it should be treated like any other normal business function. It's a beautiful metric. I love it.
Thank you, Roland. While we're on that, can you also offer a story about the portfolio management and the concept of feature monetization from?
Absolutely. One of our clients that we were working with really, I think, started to really found the power in what they called feature monetization, that some features are economic winners and some features are economic losers, and that should really drive our portfolio management approach. And the idea is this, and I think we talked about it a little bit before, but when we set up a project, it gets all kinds of stuff added into the requirements, and there really isn't always a lot of thought that goes into, well, which features are really the most important from a customer standpoint, and which of these features are going to be really hard to implement and costly, and is there any relationship between those? And so we had really a senior vice president at a big bank that we were working with, who really liked this notion of feature monetization. He said, I want to know the value and the cost of each feature, and that's what I'm going to use to prioritize our work, prioritize the portfolio, prioritize the requirements, and prioritize the delivery. Is based on knowing which features are economic winners and losers. And we use this notion of the weighted shortest job first, or the WSJF, as a quick way. It's sort of a proxy for return on investment at the feature level. And so using this weighted shortest job first approach allowed us to monetize each feature and know which ones were the economic winners. And probably just as importantly, which ones are the economic losers that we should try to avoid building altogether.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you again, Roland. So those are our three keys for Agile leadership in the crisis. Develop a customer-centric lean mindset, enable the flow with lean portfolio management, and create a culture of Agile and DevOps excellence. And with that, we want to make sure that we take your questions. So let's see, yeah, questions for you guys. I'll come back to that, the slide about our upcoming classes if you're able to join us. So questions from folks in the audience. This is where we kind of turn it over to you and sort of do the ask us anything about Agile leadership in particular. So
yeah, portfolio management, DevOps.
We'll give it a minute. Audrey, are you seeing? Oh, here we go. Here's a question. Okay, could you expand more on what is a coding dojo? So the concept of a dojo is the place of action or the place of learning, right? So this comes from the martial arts metaphor, if you will. And the idea has been applied to raising technical capability. Right? So there are folks who've been like Walmart and Target. They've been using this concept of bringing our technical folks together, the agile teams together, and they work in very short sprints, about 2.5 days, and they work for a short period, about 6 weeks or so in the dojo, and they work under the supervision of technical coaches. Right? And so we'll bring in a team and we'll deploy with the team, and we'll have this, and this, of course, all this stuff can be done virtually, of course, in today's environment. But the team comes in, we pick something that they need, that they're dealing with, the struggle that they're dealing with, a real life sort of aspect of their project, but focus on the learning aspect. And it's not so much to accelerate the project delivery as it is more about the learning. Right? And then there's a lot of hands-on coaching about how you do DevOps, how you set up a CI/CD pipeline, how you do agile engineering with the refactoring, write really good clean code, quality code, with test-first development or test-driven development, or even link those to acceptance criteria, and then it becomes behavior-driven development. So it's a very accelerated and intense learning experience, and it's done with a focus not just on process. Of course, we have to sort of fold in the agile processes as well, but very much so about the technical aspects. And then right now, we all are so sort of under crunch to make sure we can deliver. And many of our customers are saying, hey, I get that the process is important, but even more important is quality delivery. And then this focus on DevSecOps, DevOps with security built in, is pretty intense. And so coding dojos are ways to accomplish that.
So if I could add a little bit, I think the difference, well, I think we're all used to traditional classroom learning where you're sitting in a chair looking at PowerPoints kind of stuff. The dojo model is more like like Sanjeev said, the martial arts, like a Taekwondo studio, where you're going to learn stuff, but you're going to learn by doing in the presence of the master, right? So the coding dojo is having a senior agile engineering consultant embedded with your team, and you're not sitting around in a classroom learning through PowerPoints. You're learning by doing, and your engineering coaches can say, hey guys, we're having this problem, let's try this, right? And so you're learning and doing and delivering at the same time.
All right, thank you. So Catherine says all great bits of information clearly explained. Thank you so much, Catherine. Glad you enjoyed it. And Pele would like to know, what digital tools do you recommend for automating and scaling these lean practices? So there's at least 2 or 3 aspects, right? For the front end of innovation, right? So that's the customer-centric lean. We have to make sure that we have some what we call a customer innovation wall, and we need to run some experiments and track them. And an enterprise tool, like if you're using Jira, you probably want to tack on Jira Align. That's the newest addition to the Jira portfolio suite, if you will. It used to be a tool called Agile Craft that now embedded that. There are other tools. There's the version 1. If you're using Microsoft, then Microsoft Azure DevOps is a great sort of end-to-end platform. But sometimes you might need to just run that discovery portion a little separately, and you can do something as simple as Excel to track those customer-centric lean experiments. Once we get closer to the delivery part and the portfolio management, you want to make sure that whatever agile tool that you have in place to manage your sprints or your releases is robust enough. So if you're using Jira, Jira is great to get up and running with a few teams, but you're likely, not likely, you should definitely look at acquiring a more enterprise type of capability, and that's the Jira Align, 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 and that'll allow you to extend the straight Jira to the portfolio level. On other tools out there, pretty much there are other enterprise tools. The big ones, the Rally, it's now called CA Agile Central, and then of course the HP has their own tool and Microsoft has their tool. So take a look at what agile tool you have, make sure they can support you at the portfolio level, and most of the big vendors will have some portfolio management capability. Now on the delivery side, you want to do CI/CD, so you're going to use some tools like Ansible or CICD, sorry, the DevOps side, continuous integration and continuous deployment. So Puppet, Chef, Ansible, these are all
Azure, all this one.
yeah, Azure DevOps is from Microsoft. Yeah, and actually, so great point, Roland. So Microsoft Azure DevOps will allow you to do all of those things end to end. But if you're doing if you're putting together a sort of more a la carte type of tool capability, DevOps deployment can be done with Ansible or with Puppet or Chef or some of these newer tools that you might already be using.
Yeah, and then there's an interesting sort of meta tool out there. I think it's called TaskTop. Is that right, Sanjeev? It's sort of a meta tool. What it does is it has knowledge of lots of common Agile tools and is able to suck that data up from all of the tools and give you sort of a holistic view. It can suck up data from your requirements tools and your portfolio tools and your DevOps tools and give you that whole kind of end-to-end picture. Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting model.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. TaskTop, and actually a Canadian-based company, actually. All right. Any more questions? I think we might have run out of questions at this point, so hopefully that means everything is clear. So we will go ahead and give you back at least 15 minutes of your lunch hour over there. Thank you very much for joining us and really appreciate it. As I mentioned, the slides will be available and the recording will be available after the class, excuse me, after the session. If you want to join Roland or myself and learn more about these techniques, we have a couple classes coming up. You know, the Certified Agile Leadership, the certification is provided by the Scrum Alliance. The first one's actually a new certification. It's called Certified Agile Leadership Essentials. And then the advanced certification is their Cal 2. You can go and register using the WebAge, WebAge Solutions site and go register for the class. The Cal training is also there at the lightspeed.com link over there that are on the slides. Okay. So with that, one last bit of call for questions. If not, we'll call it a day and give you about 15 minutes of your lunch hour back, and I'll return to our day jobs. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us and appreciate the opportunity to share some of these insights with you, and good luck with your Agile delivery and Agile leadership. Take care.
Goodbye.